Hey guys, I'm sitting in here filming in the truck today. It's because we've got high swirly winds out there. I'm probably about ready to head out for the afternoon. Go get cold for a while. Probably won't see anything. There's a good chance of it anyhow because the wind's so swirly. I know that the last few hunts I've gone out, it's just been almost impossible to get in on the elk. It just, no matter which direction you head, the wind shifts and it's always at your back and your scent's carrying all around the forest. It's been kind of difficult to hunt, but I wanted to get on here and I'm going to post pictures before this video so that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I wanted to bring up my territory rubs that I've discovered and kind of how I've proven that that's exactly what they are, and understand that that's marking a bull's main territory and his turf and where he lives. So I originally discovered it because I was on a limited entry unit hanging trail cams to try to see what bulls I might use. And I put it in an area where there was rubs. And I figure, well, there's rubs here. There's probably going to be more bulls or the same bull coming back to rub on these trees because they're trying to strip their velvet. And I hung it on this one particular rub, and at the time I didn't realize it as a territory rub. I didn't recognize that that's what it was. I just thought it was another rub. But anyhow, I had my trail camera hanging on a tree facing towards this territory rub, and I didn't ever catch a bull on there, at least before I pulled the camera. But what I did catch was a cow, and she went right up to that tree and started rubbing her preorbital gland right on the edge of the tree. And I thought, that's interesting. Like, that cow is letting the bull know that she's in the area. And that's what I picked up on. I'm just like, that's a territorial mark, and the cow is letting this particular bull know that she's around, and she knows that she wants to be bred by that bull because he's the most dominant bull or whatever. So she's looking for this particular bull to be bred by. And so I thought, well, I might be onto something here. I'm going to test this out. And I started looking for these rubs on the mountain, and they're very difficult to find. I only find a few with fresh rubs on them from that year each year. And it has to have this year's rub on it for the herd bull to be in that territory. So if I don't find one with this year's rub on the outside edge of it, then I know that the bull's not in the territory. So that's what makes it so difficult, is you'll find several territory rubs, but some of them are older, like 2 years old or 3 years old or something like that, but they don't have a fresh rub on top of them. And until you can find one that does, then it's hard to determine where the bulls are at. But obviously, other than what I call the path of destruction too, which is what I haven't been able to film this year. But the bulls, when they rub on those trees, and you find this year's rub on the outside edge of one of those territory rubs, that's a herd bull in the area that's marking his territory. And he's letting the cows know that he's there, and they also rub on those trees to let him know that they're there. And it's just kind of a really cool thing when you find one of those, and then you follow the path of destruction in the same area where they beat up saplings and snap trees in half and just rubbed on several different trees, and they got, just all these aggressive rubs where the bark is just stripped entirely off the tree, or branches are broke, the top of the trees broke off, they're knocked to the ground, trees are uprooted. That's what I call the path of destruction. But to further test my territory rub theory, one time I was rifle hunting, had a multi-season tag that Utah used to offer, and I was rifle hunting, and I was playing the wind, I was doing everything right, and the elk were in the area, And another hunter heard me cow calling, and he just thought I was an elk, and so he came up. So basically his scent carried up to the elk, and he spooked them. And the elk came running right up to me, and I actually had 3 cow elk standing 2 yards away for like 2 minutes. They couldn't smell me. It was pretty intense. That's the closest I've ever been to an elk. And eventually, after they're standing next to me for a while, they did catch my scent, and then they took off, and they ran off. And I hurried and cow called to slow them down, try to stop them. And they still ran a distance, but I just followed their tracks in the snow because there was snow on the ground. So I was walking along, and I caught back up to the herd, and there was like 10 elk standing around one tree, and they were all rubbing on the tree. And I thought, wow, I bet that's a territory rub. I'm going to go check it out. So I walked down to this tree, and I know it was this tree because of all the elk tracks in the snow around it. And sure enough, it was a territory rub. So all those elk, when they'd been spooked by me and that other hunter, ran to this tree and started rubbing their scent glands on there to let the bull know they were still in the area. So that one was kind of the convincer for me that that's really what they are, as a territory rub. Is I've seen a cow elk do it. I caught it on trail cam. And then I watched this herd do it after being spooked by us hunters. And they were trying to let the bull know that they were still in the area. And I've tried this and tested it so many times, and it just keeps putting me on herd bulls. I found 2 of those rubs a quarter mile apart one year. It was 2017 actually. And before the rut even started, before they were even bugling, I found these territory rubs on these trees. That first couple weeks of the season, that's typically what I'm looking for. And as I found these rubs, I told my dad, a herd bull living right here, there's a herd bull living right here. And they were about a quarter mile apart. And my dad and I went hunting that year. And I was trying to help him out at first. So I actually called him in a 5x5, and he ended up killing that bull. And it was by one of those territory rubs. And so he harvested, and so at that point he was helping me. And the herd bull that I was after, that was a quarter mile away, ended up moving over to this other area just because this herd bull had died, and he had hot cows. And so my bull came over the quarter mile and took over this new area because that's where the cows were at, just because his territory wasn't much further away. But he came over and established that territory for himself after the other herd bull was dead. But both bulls were pretty much killed right where I had found those territory rubs and knew that bulls were hanging out for the season. So I've done several things to test these territory rubs, and I believe that I've proven it true time and time again. So I'll show some of those before this film and let you guys just take it for what it's worth, but I believe it's accurate. All right, thanks.